Barkindo, says should be pursued vigorously with oil and gas energy demand expected to increase in Africa, which is the largest net product importing region. Energy correspondent Hawa Salihu Adama reports that this is part of discussions at the 16th Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition.
I'd love to wake up and see this country ramp up its production for at least 2 million barrels by 2021. I'd like to see a threefold increase in gas supply in this country. I'd like to see jobs in this sector stop contracting and indeed explode.
Our strategic thrust is to build and maintain backbone gas infrastructure network across Nigeria while managing transmission of gas across the network.
Although 2016 was a tough year for all producers, and Nigeria is no exception, the 2017 forecast for the country is positive, with a growing output target and some exciting new discoveries.
A four-goal strategic plan to reposition the civil service has been unveiled by Acting President Yemi Osinbajo. Ademola Brookslyn Sunday reports that the unveiling was at the quarterly Civil Service Lecture Series held at the State House, Abuja.
Really the backbone of society itself, not just the backbone of government, but the backbone of society itself. Because when you look at it, the public service presents an incredible opportunity. It is a privilege representing through service one's country and one's people. It's an incredible chance to be a part of the fabric of development of policies, of concepts and ideas that transform the lives of millions and generations.
Countries with more efficient and effective public service tend to achieve higher levels of economic growth, and this helps the country to attract more investment, offer higher quality public services, encourage higher levels of human capital accumulation, put foreign aid resources to better use.
Nigeria has recorded another landmark achievement by being the first member of the United Nations to launch a private sector advisory group on the Sustainable Development Goals. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo, who inaugurated the group, urged the elite to be more involved in efforts to transform the society.
A lot of our people hang their hopes on us. They hang their hopes on us. No matter how we slice it, people look up to us and believe that we can do it. And despite all the failures and all the false starts, our people, especially the poor and the vulnerable, still believe that this elite, this political elite, this private sector elite will deliver and can deliver.
I am convinced that standing together and stronger together, this generation can improve the outcomes of the next generation.
And the private sector must move to the center stage and occupy the engine room of the Sustainable Development implementation process.
The effect of about 35 million tons of waste generation on the environment in Nigeria annually, which justifies the need for the enactment of a national waste control bill, took center stage at the Senate Committee on Environment's meeting with Waste Management Society of Nigeria. The meeting, convened at the instance of the President of the Senate, Abubakar Bukola Saraki, is part of efforts to ensure sound waste management in the country.
Recognize that waste management is a technical issue so that our people can live healthy.
Because of the challenges we have with the environment right now, I think I can take this for you to go with, to go to even secondary schools and have waste management society.
The House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to provide the enforcement and punishment of crimes against humanity, such as war crimes and genocide.
We provide the necessary legal framework for providing appropriate criminal sanction to perpetrators of mass crimes.
We lend our voices and support this bill because not only does it answer to our security issues, it answers to our constitutional requirements.
The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has again restated the commitment of the Nigeria Police to sustain efforts towards maintaining peace in the West African sub-region. The IGP was speaking when he received the Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission, Edward Singati.
And secondly, we came to also pledge and come up with a payment plan to settle the debt that we owe the police officers that served in ECOMIP in Guinea-Bissau.
We are at any point ready to provide men and materials to support peace and security in the ECOWAS sub-region.
Talking transport now, the federal government has restated its commitment to providing good roads and other critical infrastructure for socio-economic and political development of the country. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, stated this while inaugurating the just completed repair work on the Abuja-Kaduna Highway.
This particular emergency carried out on this portion, this segment of the road, this Abuja to Kaduna portion, is a segment within the one that starts from Abuja to Kano. And then what we've done here, because of the closure of the airport, the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja, that's what made us to carry out this palliative measure.
Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says an action plan that will engage all actors in the media and entertainment industry in the country is critical in taking advantage of the enormous entertainment potential in partnering with Morocco. He stated this when he received members of Kannywood in Abuja.
Quite impressed and excited that Morocco has such a highly developed, call it a more mature media and entertainment industry. But nonetheless, because of our size, because of our market and because of our potentials, they are also very eager to have some form of cooperation with Nigeria.
We went around all the cinema houses, the equipment centers, the television stations, and everywhere. We were all informed, and we have seen what we have not learned from what we are doing here.
The federal government says it will use the new partnership for Africa's development to empower youths and women to step up their skills for national growth. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir David Lawal, stated this at a summit on skills acquisition for Africa holding in Abuja.
This government will always continue to support the initiative to ensure that all Nigerians are positively affected by its action.
We have to realign our youths and women. We have to give them hope. NEPAD is there to give them hope.
We have to give the kind of education that gives the appropriate skills and competencies to our young people so that they can employ themselves.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, the National Population Commission, and the National Assembly have been urged to adhere to the constitutional provisions that ensure proper representation of Nigerians through their constituencies. This came from legal and constitutional experts at a roundtable held in Abuja on constituency delimitation.
The revision of these discrepancies through a delimitation of constituency review has led to court actions after general elections.
The Constitution says use the latest. But from 2007, all the elections we have had did not comply with this requirement because in 2006, we had a new census because
the motive is to put this into the public domain. Happily, INEC seem to have taken a hint and they are already setting up committees. But I think it should go beyond just setting up committees.
There is yet growing concern over drug abuse among youths in the country, especially in some states in the north. Rehabilitation and how to stop the menace is the thrust of discussion at this Northern Governors' Wives Forum in Abuja.
We felt this is a good opportunity to lend our voices as wives of governors, as leaders in our various states, to come out and fight this, and it's a very good cause.
We are ignorant about it, but I'm so happy that this year around we all decided collectively to look into the future of our children.
As mothers, as role models, as leaders in our society, we should lend our strong voice in fighting drug addiction.
This is one thing that we must tackle if we're going to get to the bottom of it, is the regulation, the patent medicine stores. That is where it comes from.
And that's the news at this hour. The program continues with Claire and Kinsley after this break.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, thank you for joining us. As usual, if you've just tuned in, you're right on to Good Morning Nigeria from NTA. And we want to talk business now, and we understand more financial succor is coming the way for medium, small, and micro enterprises, and that's as the Development Bank of Nigeria is set to commence operations. According to the Federal Ministry of Finance, Kinsley, if you remember, the DBN, that's the Development Bank of Nigeria, was, of course, the modalities were put in place about last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's for the establishment of that bank.
Yes. And it was, according to the minister then, this is supposed to focus on small and medium enterprises, of course, to aid them in, of course, obtaining soft loans. But Kolo Mohammed will tell us all about it on Business News.
The Federal Minister of Finance has confirmed the completion of recruitment exercise for the executive management team of the Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, and has formally applied for the issuance of its operational license from the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is expected imminently. The DBN will have access to $1.3 billion, which has been jointly provided by the World Bank, German Development Bank, the African Development Bank, and the French Development Agency. The bank is also finalizing agreements with the European Investment Bank. The ministry says the operations of the DBN will not in any way result in the elimination of the Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture, or any other existing development bank. The operations of the DBN is clearly distinct from other development banks, as it is focused on supporting small businesses defined by size and not by sectors. The DBN will provide loans to all sectors of the economy, including manufacturing, services, and other industries not currently served by existing development banks, thereby filling an important gap in the provision of finance to micro, small, and medium enterprises. And with the recent forex policy by the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has significantly strengthened the naira against the dollar, consumers are heaving a sigh of relief as prices of commodities are beginning to exhibit downward turn. The same can, however, not be said about traders and other business persons, as they may have to operate at a loss for a short while. The federal government has been applauded for the current economic feat and encouraged to keep up the tempo.
Until a pragmatic effort was, put into place. Now look, push out dollar into circulation. Now, the overall impact is that Nigerians are clapping. because we have seen a sharp drop in the dollar.
The latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics revealed that the gross domestic product GDP of the Nigerian economy has continued to dwindle due to factors ranging from weaker inflation, induced consumption demand, an increase in pipeline vandalism, significant reduction in foreign reserves, weaker currency, and problems in the energy sector. Data released indicates the nation's gross domestic product contracted by minus 1.30% year-on-year in real terms from over 18 billion in the last quarter of 2015. This decline was less severe than the decline recorded in the previous quarter of minus 2.24%, but was nevertheless lower than the growth rate recorded in the final quarter of 2015 of 2.11%. Quarter on quarter, real GDP increased by 4.09%, which partly reflects seasonal factors as well as a rise in general price level. And for the latest closing figures on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange, here is a graphic summary. That's businesses at this time. I'm Kolo Muhammad.
All right, thank you very much there, Kolo Muhammad, for the business package. Next for us now is to take a look at the headlines in some of today's papers. As always, Bayo Atoyebi, our reviewer, is here with us in the studios this morning for today's edition. Bayo, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kinsley. How are you today?
Very well.
Claire, good morning, and good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, Bayo. I wanted to ask Bayo, just before we take off, the way you adjust your cap, what does it know? I know they have different, representation.
I know you are getting back at me. There was a time I called Adra, whether he was left wing or right wing, the way he bent his cap. That was just being talking up for the screen.
All right, let's get on with the review.
All right, let's begin our review this morning with the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, below the nameplate, says Soludo visits IPOB leader, says Nigeria more divided now. Details of that story on page 3. And the other headline there says JAMB, that's with the kicker, no admission for candidates awaiting results. Details of the story on page 12. Lead story, Senate, NNPC failed to account for 5.1 trillion naira subsidy. Also there at the front page, the left side, that's the first column, says federal government's liability, a contributory pension hit 183 billion naira, and that's attributed to the NLC. And in business, recession. Nigeria's economy improved in 2016. That's talking about fourth quarter. And the story is according to the NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics. Gunmen seize 3 teachers, demand 30 million naira. That's on page 10. South Africa deports 97 Nigerians. That's on page 4. And reps summon IGP over Kwankwanso. That's on page 35. And there's a photograph on the front page there. It says with the caption, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, during a special edition of the NTA's Tales by Moonlight program, to mark his 80th birthday celebration at his ancestral village in Ibogun, near Ifo. That's in Ogun State, and that took place yesterday. The details of the story can be found on page 6. So, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, 80, leading the Tales by Moonlight underneath a tree. But that wasn't at night, by the way, because the photograph shows daytime, so it should have been at night.
The place could have been lit up instantly.
The vehicles in the background indicated that it was daytime. But nevertheless, NTA's Tales by Moonlight, was a world beater.
Well, that was to capture our culture in perspective.
That's right.
In the villages, elders gather in the evening to tell tales to children, and from this they derive a lot of wisdom.
I never missed it.
That's right.
I never missed it. Well presented, one of the old programs that, of course, we should bring back on our screens. All right, let's get on now with Daily Sun. And Daily Sun leads with that story Kingsley just read about deportation of Nigerians. South Africa deports 97 Nigerians. Now, there's a rider to that. Senate to dispatch delegation to protest xenophobic attacks. And well, there's a picture story, but I'll get to that presently. Presidency, NBS differ on GDP growth. Details of that you can find on page 44. But the writers there say we are coming out of recession. That's coming from the federal government, FG, and growth rate shrinks. And that's coming from the NBS agency. Now, 2019, I'm not running for presidency, and that's according to Tinubu. It's on page 2. Release Kanu now. Pan-Igbo group tells federal government. Soludo Utomi deliver demand in Abuja. Now, there's a story trending at the bottom there, and it's on Sokoto gubernatorial, of course, election. Supreme Court decides Tambuwa's fate March 10. The story of that is on page 13. Just to take you beside the nameplate, PDP governors opt for political solution to party's crisis on page 8. Bye.
Yes, 97 Nigerians have arrived Lagos. They were deported from South Africa. They comprise 95 males and 2 females. Agency reports claim that a source told them that 6 were deported for drug-related offenses, while 10 others were for other criminal offenses. 81 others were for varying immigration offenses. It may be recalled that 41 were also deported from Mali. This week, that brings to 138 Nigerians who were illegally deported from abroad. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Hajia Hadiza Abba Ibrahim, has appeared before the Joint Committee of Foreign Affairs of the National Assembly. The Senator Mansoura Sumaru-led committee was told that Nigerians had their property destroyed in the last xenophobic attack. However, we were lucky there was no Nigerian life lost. The committee was disappointed that the High Commissioner in South Africa had not invited Nigerians to give them succor about the challenges they are having. They also lamented that in 2014 and 2015, what was negotiated for Nigerians who were victims of that xenophobic attack had not been told to the Nigerians. The committee chairman indicated that the Senate has mandated the National Assembly to go with members of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to South Africa. We all go together and see the bilateral agreements that have been signed. It has to be a give and take. Nigerians will not hesitate to sanction South Africa if this kind of thing continue. The Senate was told that in 2016, 20 Nigerians were killed during the xenophobic attack. This is about the 4th time we are having it. The first was in 2008, 2014, 2015, and the latest this year.
That's right, Baya. As you just indicated, if they say that no life was lost, but they've lost their businesses.
Yes, the means of livelihood.
The means of livelihood, which is crucial. And of course, I'm sure there also have been some injuries inflicted on some of the persons. If they say that there are persons who are involved in drug dealing, will it be through the kind of violent attacks that we have seen now they are brought to justice? Leadership newspaper is next for us. Let's take a look at the headlines on the front page of Leadership. Oil and gas. Nigeria targets $10 billion investments in 5 years and says oil production hits 2.1 million barrels per day. And Niger Agric Extension workers get 100 motorcycles. That's Agric Extension workers in Niger State receiving 100 motorcycles. Details of that story on page 11. Now, the lead story is on the economy. Recession. Economy shows signs of recovery. That's attributed to the NBS. We read that earlier from another paper. But more elaborately now, through 2 riders, agriculture, services, and metal oil sectors boost quarter-on-quarter GDP by 4.09%. And experts predict improved stock market performance and returns on investment. On-August confirmation screening begins today. That's also on the front page there. And then at the foot of the front page, corruption hindering progress of civil service. That's attributed to Oshibajo, acting president. And IOC spent $5 billion on indigenous firms' capacity building. Details of the story on page 30.
All right, Kingsley, all the stories we've read are also on the front page of the Nigerian pilot. So I need not repeat all the stories you've heard. Just to say that on page 2 of the Daily Sun, I understand this is a story that has been trending, alleged diarrhea deaths, federal government queries Queen's College principal. And just to read out a few, 2 boarding students died a few days ago after they ate spaghetti cooked in the college refectory and drank water from the school storage system. And there have been accusations and counter-accusations.
The school has been closed down, by the way.
Yes,
we said
yes.
that yesterday.
Okay.
Yes.
That was reviewed yesterday, and it's unfortunate, but it's a situation that has to be looked into critically, because many of the federal government colleges, the unity schools, are facing challenges about their food supply. Their contract for food supply is always about 3 months in arrears. Something has to be done about it. Most of the time, the colleges are at the mercy of the contractors. They have to supply them food on credit, and in such situation, anything goes. They can push it across anything because they seem to be doing you a favor.
That's right.
So that is no excuse for food that probably is poisonous to have been served on students. Yes,
just poor hygiene.
Yes. The other concern is that, are you aware there was rain in Abuja?
It was a drizzle yesterday.
Well, Daily Trust has reported that the cloud gathered and somebody in the Otako area that a few droplets fell on his face. And he was very glad to smell the dust, the smell of earth when rain first falls. However, the Nigerian Meteorological Institute says don't expect rain until second week of March.
Well, I guess that's much we can take, except to add that today it's Wednesday. It's Ash Wednesday.
Yes, I was going to say that.
It's the first of a 40-day fast for Christians. So.
All right, yes, that's the much that we can take. Bye, Trade. Thank you for being with us. See you again tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another day.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are taking 2 topics today, the crisis in the PDP as well as the federal government of Nigeria savings bonds. We'll take a short break now.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. So let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogeruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
There are over 250,000 street children in Lagos.
The Street Child Care and Welfare Initiative is a sanctuary for street children and runaways. Rotimi Aziz was one such child. 3 years ago, his life was the streets.
It's hard to sleep on the floor because sometimes rain fall and beat us on the floor while we are sleeping outside. So we experience a whole lot of bad things on the street.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property and Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Garki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntap2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited. The much needed help at your doorstep.
All right, right, once again, we welcome you and time to take off our conversation. As we said earlier on, we're looking at the PDP crisis. And Ngozi Chude, in this background report, of course, tries to refresh our memories of how the problem started.
The crisis in the People's Democratic Party, PDP, can be traced back to the period before the 2015 elections. There had been crisis in the party, but it took a significant dimension when 7 of its governors, some of its legislatures and chieftains of the PDP threatened to and eventually broke away from the party, culminating in its loss of power. The chairman then, Adamu Muazu, resigned and his deputy, Uche Secondus, held sway until challenges to his leadership of the party became too loud for comfort. Ali Modu Sharif was then handed the leadership of the PDP. He himself had been one of those who midwifed the APC before he left for the PDP on the eve of the elections after falling out with the other leaders of the new party. Quickly, he set about preparing for the party's national convention in Port Harcourt and had himself indicated interest in the chairmanship position before pulling out after registering as a contestant and then suspending the convention. There followed a flurry of high court rulings in Abuja, Port Harcourt and Lagos for or against the convention. Though Ali Modu Sharif left Port Harcourt, the convention went on with his deputy Uche Secondus presiding, leading to the emergence of the Ahmed McAfee National Caretaker Committee. Both sides headed to the Court of Appeal Port Harcourt, with recent split decision recognizing Ali Modu Sharif as the chairman of the People's Democratic Party that seems to have stopped the crisis rocking the party. While 2 of the judges held that the convention was in contravention of the PDP constitution and a court order and therefore upheld Ali Modu Sharif's chairmanship, the remaining judge said the National Convention of the PDP is a supreme body and so was right in removing Sharif, and that in any case, Sharif had presented himself at the convention venue and could not single-handedly cancel it. As anticipated, contrary to posturings before the Court of Appeal judgment by both sides that the court's decision would not be challenged, the Ahmed McAfee Group has mounted a legal challenge at the Supreme Court. Issues surrounding the crisis ravaging the People's Democratic Party is what guests will be giving clarity to on the program.
All right, Ngozi Chude, thank you very much there for that background report. Now we have 2 guests with us in the studios to thrash out the issue of the lingering crisis in the PDP. First, at this time, we'd like to welcome the former Special Advisor on Political Matters to erstwhile President Goodluck Jonathan. That's Alhaji Ahmed Gulak, who is also a lawyer. Alhaji Gulak, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you to have me on this program.
Okay.
All right, Kingsley, we also have here with us Mr. David Yoemba. Mr. Yoemba is a former speaker excuse me, of the Benue State House of Assembly. He is a lawyer and also the national legal advisor to the Ahmed McAfee side just before the Court of Appeal judgment. Mr. Yoemba, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, well, gentlemen, what is the status of the leadership of the PDP as of today? Let's begin with Alhaji Gulak.
Well, the status is clear. The Court of Appeal has spoken and declared in their judgment that Ali Modu Sharif is the only legally and authentic national chairman of the People's Democratic Party. We know as a fact that before the Court of Appeal judgment in Port Harcourt, federal high courts of coordinate jurisdictions have given conflicting orders. Port Harcourt Federal High Court recognized the Ahmed McAfee Caretaker Committee. Abuja Federal High Court declared that Sharif was the only national chairman of the PDP. And in order to forestall any breakdown of law and order, consequent upon the conflicting judgments of the Federal High Court, all parties were summoned by the IGP, and all parties involved agreed that because of these conflicting Federal High Court orders, the police should take over the party secretariats and the assets of the party so that it will maintain law and order. All parties agreed that after the Port Harcourt Court of Appeal judgment, whoever emerges a winner, or whoever wins the case, or whoever the court says is the national chairman, all parties will come together and give that person the needed support to take us to national convention where the party will elect its national officers. McCarthy side, through Ben Obi, issued a statement. Sheriff side, through Dr. Cairo, issued a statement that after the Court of Appeal judgment, no further litigation. All agreed. And when the judgment came on the 17th of February, the court papers were served on the IGP, and the IGP called all parties and restated our earlier agreement that for the past 10 months, the party secretariat have been under lock and key by the agreement of all parties. We said now that the Court of Appeal awaited judgment has come, the statute is that Alimo the Sheriff is the national chairman. And the police agreed, and every other person agreed, and allowed Sheriff and his executive, that's NWC, access to the party secretariat. And he has resumed duty legally, as declared by the Court of Appeal. And there's only one PDP and one leadership. And that leadership has been galvanizing all PDP supporters, governors, BOT members, NEC members, ordinary supporters, that look, come, let us together partner positively to go for a national convention, national unity convention, where we will elect our officers, and I will not participate or contest. That is the position of the party for now. And to me, I'm on the side of the law. A judgment of the Court of Appeal is there, valid, subsisting, and I have no quarrel with it. We know as a fact that an individual in a matter like this has every constitutional right to go to Supreme Court because it's the final court. And before then, Alimo the Sheriff remains the chairman. And the Supreme Court belongs to everybody. The Supreme Court is not owned by an individual or group of individuals. It makes me sad, and I am pained, that people will come on national television and speak as if they own the Supreme Court. Somebody will come and say, let us see if the Supreme Court will not be supreme enough to give us judgment. Somebody will come on television and say, I know I will get judgment at the Supreme Court, as if you own the Supreme Court.
All right.
You shouldn't speak in that vein.
Elijah Goodluck, thank you. You've made your position. Let's hear from Mr. David Yoemba. Mr. Yoemba, the appeal court has ruled. What is the stage? Where are we now, from your own side?
Well, as Mr. Goodluck has rightly stated, the Court of Appeal, as lawyers, when we speak like lawyers, the Court of Appeal has spoken. They have given their majority judgment, a split judgment of 2-1. There was a dissenting judgment in that appeal. As far as we are concerned, the People's Democratic Party has appealed against the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt. They have also gone ahead to file a motion for injunction, which is still pending before that court. Records have been transmitted to the Supreme Court, and I think that the Supreme Court will go ahead and make a pronouncement on this matter. This matter does not only involve the People's Democratic Party. We're talking about testing the convention of the party, the supremacy of the convention of a political party. It not only pertains to the People's Democratic Party, but to other political parties too. If a judicial pronouncement is taken on this issue, we all know whether the convention of a party can do all or everything in the party, dissolving the National Executive Council of the party, the National Working Committee of the party. They can even go ahead to dissolve the Board of Trustees of a political party. And that is where we are. And so having filed an appeal, the notice of appeal has been filed, motion for injunction has been filed.
What do you mean by motion for injunction?
Yes, to restrain the parties, from doing anything taken any other steps. And as we know that once an appeal has been entered, the proper place is for the Supreme Court, the appellate court, to go ahead and make a declaration. So we are at the Supreme Court as of now, and we want the Supreme Court to make a declaration, to take a decision, to make a pronouncement, a judicial pronouncement on this issue, and they'll be settled once and for all. That is where we are for now.
Sorry, Kate.
I was just wondering, Claire, I mean, I guess let's, before we again continue with the legal intricacies, just hold on a second, before we get back into the legal intricacies of this matter. I mean, if one of the factions is going on appeal, and then of course to the Supreme Court, then we'll see how that plays out. But for members of the public, and we also believe, also for, we don't know what your membership is now, in the PDP. I'm not sure any political party actually knows if they keep a proper register. But exactly what is at play in the PDP? What, is it just, large egos bruising against each other?
I think the issue is, like you rightly captured, is ego. People don't use their senses. People use their egos or sentiments. Let me come in here. The fact that you have filed a notice of appeal is not an automatic stay of execution of that declaratory judgment, more so that it is a declaratory judgment. The fact that you have filed motion for stay of execution is not automatic. You file it before the court that gave judgment. That is what the law says. In one breath, you want justice from the court, and in another breath, you want to go against what the court has said. Let me make a clarification here. We are all lawyers. The law is clear. You don't change the law. Even a lawyer that comes out from the law school today knows that a court order, no matter how stupid it is, must be obeyed until vacated or set aside on appeal. There was a federal high court order in Lagos barring the party from conducting election into the offices of chairman, secretary, and auditor. There was a valid court judgment of FCT High Court on the 18th of June stating clearly that there should be no election whatsoever by the PDP into 17 offices of the PDP, including that one of the chairman. Those judgments and orders were subsisting, valid, and was not obtained when some people gathered themselves in Port Harcourt to establish what is today known as the illegally declared Makarfi Caretaker Committee. So the law is clear. You cannot go, even if, yes, we know that National Convention is the highest decision-making body of the party. But the question is, can National Convention of a party be made or conducted in utter violation of a subsisting court order and judgment? The answer is no. By agreements of parties, we cannot violate the Constitution. We cannot violate court order. We cannot violate court judgment.
Okay.
Well, a party that is, involved in a litigation, a party to a litigation, having subjected itself to the court, must obey the judgment and orders of the court. If you disagree, go on appeal.
You have said this is an ego matter.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Now, why I say it's ego matter? Because all parties, when the party secretariat was locked by the police to forestall breakdown of law and order, all parties agreed, everybody in the party agreed that after the Court of Appeal judgment, we should not pursue this issue further.
Okay.
Let us prefer political solution.
Yes. For you, is this an ego matter or sheer lack of internal democracy? Or
with all due respect to my senior colleague, I think that that's a misapplication and misinformation to the general public that there was an agreement for the parties to respect the judgment of the Court of Appeal. There was no such agreement. At no point
but
was such
there was
no such an agreement. Okay. There was no such an agreement. Where we are is that before the judgment of the Court of Appeal came up, there were some conflicting judgments from the Federal High Court. And these appellants, the parties, the chairman, and his National Executive Council members, committee members, were shuttling from one court to another. They were the ones that filed the matter in Lagos, 3 of the National Executive Committee members, Alhaji Ali Modu Sheriff, Professor Oladepo, Alhaji Adeyanju, restraining the National Convention, seeking an order restraining the National Convention not to conduct elections into those 3 offices. These were the plaintiffs in that matter before the Federal High Court in Lagos. Guess what? The interlocutory injunction that was that no election should be conducted in those offices. The question is, did the National Convention in Port Harcourt held on the 21st day of May 2016, did it conduct any election? The answer is no. The convention was unaware of the orders of that court. The orders of that court were served on Sheriff, who himself presented himself to the National Convention. Sheriff bought forms to contest for the national chairmanship of the People's Democratic Party on the 21st day of May 2016. He presented himself to be screened to the screening committee. It was only when he failed in the screening committee, that he voted out of the convention. He failed. He had no voters card. He had no membership card of the People's Democratic Party. That was why he failed the screening. As soon as
Mr.
I'm still going on.
You're still going on, but see, these are some of the legal issues. As I said, we could have shelved those legal issues maybe later on in the conversation. Because for the ordinary person, I mean, the member of your party who is out there in the hinterland and just wondering what is happening, Alhaji Gulak says, look, yes, these are egos brushing one against the other. What is the source of what are the sources of this personal conflict? Yes. You know, your party is already out of power. So what is all this, as Nigerians would say, all this gra-gra all about?
As we said, ego could come into play, but as we said earlier on, we must have to ensure that the proper thing is done. First and foremost, the PDP has an electoral tenure of 4 years. The election that threw in Bamanga Tukul, he came in for 4 years. Having resigned the chairmanship of the party, it was incumbent upon the party to produce somebody from that zone. That was brought in Alhaji Adamu Mwazu, the unexpired tenure of Bamanga Tukul. My senior colleague Gulak went to court that, look, somebody from that zone, the northeastern zone, must be appointed as a chairman. It was based on that judgment that Gulak got from the court, which ousted Secondus from being the acting national chairman. It was based on that. Secondus actually appealed against that judgment at the Court of Appeal. He lost. The judgment which Alhaji Gulak got was reaffirmed that, look, the party must do the proper thing based on the provisions of the Constitution of the People's Democratic Party. And that was what brought the National Executive Committee of the party appointing Alhaji Sheriff from. He was not elected. He was never elected. In fact, Adamu Mwazu was also not elected.
No, he was.
He was ratified at the presidential
convention know the history of
in
this
2004. I'm aware of it. It's something I know very well. Alhaji Mwazu was, ratified by the National Executive Committee of the party, ratified by the presidential convention in 2014. There was no electoral convention in 2014.
Okay, where was he elected? At what?
Look,
was he elected?
I can claim to be an authority in these issues because from day one I've been there since 1998. So I can claim to be an authority. He has confirmed. I went to court to say, look, we must do the proper thing. Yes. Mazu has resigned. Somebody must come from the northeast. Secondus stayed there put for 6 months, 8 months. I could see that he was not ready to go. I tested his validity in the court of law, and the court gave me judgment that either me or anybody from the northeast must be appointed. neck of our party, the second highest decision-making body, called for a meeting. Sharif was presented, Mohamed Abagana was presented, Said Kumo from Gombe was presented, His Excellency former governor of Gwangwala State, Wilberforce Juta, was presented. And in the neck meeting, Sharif got 69 votes as against Giri Lawan's 9 votes. That was how Sharif was elected in NEC. So, but that one is history. Let us talk about ego now that we are supposed to dwell on. Because the ordinary person in the street...
Sorry, did such an election hold? Were you party to such an election?
There was no such election. I still repeat that there was no convention. The National Executive Committee of the People's Democratic Party...
I did not say convention, NEC.
NEC cannot vote.
They voted.
NEC cannot vote and produce a national chairman. There must be a convention.
In NEC, when you take decision, you can do by consensus, you can do by election.
I still insist.
And I still insist that there was election. Say Sharif got 69 votes. Giri Lawal got 9 votes. Juta got 1 vote.
So how is the ego playing out now?
The ego thing is this. Look, like you said, ordinary Nigerians, ordinary PDP supporters want this PDP to come back to them. Let them elect those they want to stand elections for them. Let them elect those that they will lead them as party officers. But people in Abuja that parade the streets of Abuja don't consider the interests of the masses. If we had considered the interests of the masses, what are all this about? Even if the court in Port Harcourt said, okay, McCarthy, you are genuine or valid caretaker committee chairman, are you going to perpetuate yourself? You have told us you will do convention for national officers to be elected. Now Sharif had gotten judgment. He said he is going to do convention. Come, let's all come together, form conventions committee. Let us go for national convention and elect officers. So why don't we go? Why don't we accept? Why don't we abide by the constitution? Why don't we take the interests of our supporters at heart? What they need is elected officers of this party that will run the affairs, that we can pick up the pieces and begin to rebuild this party. So the issue is, why are we afraid of going for convention?
Sharif has the crown right now, someone rightly pointed out,
but
doesn't have the crowd.
No.
So does that justify
it's subject to debate. Who is the crowd? Are the people we in Abuja, are we the crowd? Or the people in the units, in the wards, in the local government? Those are the crowd that the PDP needs.
What are they saying?
What they are saying is that, look, all these leaders come together, give us convention. Let us have elected officers so that we can come from our states to elect officers that we believe will lead this party to the promised land. That is what the ordinary man is saying.
Well,
what is wrong there?
You appear to, to be dominating the issue of, with all due respect, as I said, the people, the Nigerian populace believes in PDP, but it must, whatever that we are doing, we must follow the laid down rules and procedure. Who on earth, in the People's Democratic Party, every one of them abide by the convention of the party. Yes. They agree that the convention of the party is supreme. And that is, the convention has shut down the National Executive Committee of the party. In his place, if the convention has the powers to put in any committee, including the National Caretaker Committee, and that was where we were before Sharif went to court. He has been shuttling. He has more than 17 cases across, instigating members to sue the party. You want to be the chairman of the party. You took the party to court. You have been doing all manner of things. Up to a point, he has instigated crisis in the party by asking that the state working committees, state executive committees, that he himself, through the congresses that were done, be shut down. That is what is happening.
Okay,
why is he doing that? Okay. His way of instituting actions in court was based on the fact that the National Executive Committee of the party was his main issue. Now, he has gone to the ward level, he has gone to local government, he has gone to the state. No. Why is he doing that?
So let's look at what, threw up all this. He has given his own side. Whether by election or by appointment, Sheriff became, the party's henchman. So what went wrong?
As I said, what actually happened is that Sheriff was disqualified from contesting his manipulations, whether he would want to become the national chairman of the party. That convention, he seems to say that, did not hold. He issued a notice of convention based on the provisions of our party on the 15th day of March 2016. The provisions are that you issue a notice of 3 months. He issued that notice. The case in Abuja, he refused to grant that relief. One of the reliefs sought by Chief Emeka Dibia against PDP was that the court should declare the notice of convention, which he was part of. The National Executive Committee of the party sits, agree, issue a notice of convention. You were there, you bought form, presented yourself to the screening. It was on the day of the convention, on the 21st, when Sheriff knew that he has been screened out, that he bought it out of the convention.
Yeah,
and he went ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ihemba,
yes, sir.
And then Alhaji Gulak. The PDP governed Nigeria for 16 years. And at some point, the party prided itself as the largest political party on the African continent with the subtext of a brag that we're going to be in power for 60 years. But that changed 2 years ago. Nigerians had the opportunity of observing the PDP on stage, still pursuing the ego thing. I would like you gentlemen to respond to this, again, for the benefit of the members of the public. What we are seeing in terms of the contestation between the factions, is this a continuation of the do-or-die doctrine we found, during the past years?
Like I said, I can talk authoritatively on the inner workings of PDP. You see, what we lacked because of the 16 years we have been on the stage was internal democracy, impunity. Let me correct my younger colleague here.
No, it's a fellow guest.
Oh, yes.
It's a fellow guest.
Okay, yes. My friend here. Yes. You see, Sheriff did not come out to contest for the chairmanship of this party. Everybody knows that I was one of those from the Northeast that was interested in leading this party. Some of our leaders in the PDP, from the Governors Forum, some of them, urged Sheriff, went to him, not once, not twice, not thrice. We have screened all those people from your Northeast. We have seen in you the leadership quality that can lead this party. Serve out Mahazu's tenure for us. Conduct convention. Everybody agreed. After Sheriff became chairman, the time for zoning of the offices came. Everybody said, okay, let us zone the office, chairmanship office, to the southwest. Since the Ikweremadu committee said our next presidential candidate should come from the north. The southwest. To be specific, Governor Ayo Fayashi, our governor from Ikiti, said, no, we don't want this leadership in the southwest for now. It is the north that the PDP suffered much. We still need to retain this leadership in the north so that we can do the panel beating in the north. When the time comes for the presidential candidate, which is about 2-3 years to come in 2018, then we can rezone the positions of presidential candidate and the national chairman. Zoning committee was formed. Governor of Akwa Ibom, Emmanuel Udom, was the chairman. Former governors were members, and they, in their wisdom, zoned the chairmanship to the north. And to the north, specifically to the northeast. What they wanted to achieve, I cannot say. In the northeast, during our zonal congress, our two governors, the only two PDP governors in the entire north, from Taraba and Gombe State, Governor Dankombo and Governor Darius. We were in Jalingo. Governor Darius moved the motion that in the Northeast, Sheriff is our only candidate. Governor Dankombo supported the motion. All delegates supported. And we came from the Northeast zone with one candidate, Sheriff. Going to Port Harcourt National Convention, let me correct the impression. The two governors, Fayoshe and Wike, promised us that before Friday, they will vacate, they will ensure that the order from the Federal High Court, Lagos, will be vacated. And we stayed, waiting for the order to be vacated. By Friday evening, the order was not vacated. And Sheriff said, look, I don't have immunity. You governors have immunity. If I go ahead with this convention, the court can jail me. But you are governors, you have immunity. For this reason, I cannot go ahead with this convention in utterance, disregard, and disobedience of the court order. Sheriff issued a press conference postponing the convention pending when issues, legal issues will be sorted out.
Does he have the powers of
As
postponing
the national chairman,
a
a national convention must be presided over by the national chairman. The constitution is clear.
It's not mandatory. It is not mandatory.
Yes, what is the question?
It is not mandatory.
What is the question?
It is not mandatory.
You were asking a question.
Yes.
We interrupted me by asking a question. What is the question? Does he have the power to postpone convention?
Yes.
Yes, he had.
He does not have the powers.
Let me answer you. He has because there is a valid subsisting court order barring that convention. And because he is a law-abiding chairman, he obeys the court rule. He obeys the court order. He obeys the court judgment. In that vein, even if all the PDP members in this country agree that let us go with convention, it is going to be in disobedience of the court order. And we don't want to do that.
I would want to stress that he cannot approbate and reprobate. He has disobeyed the court order himself, if he at all he had. He had these court orders in his pocket. He refused to obey them. This is a convention that was put in place. He presented himself for election with those court orders in his pocket. It was when he was disqualified that he voted out of the convention. He does not have the powers to postpone any convention of the party. This is because the provisions of our party are very clear. Before the notice of convention is issued, you must have to comply with 3 months' notice. Okay. You must also consult with the National Executive Committee before it is postponed. Sheriff cannot unilaterally. He cannot alone.
He did not alone.
He did. He went to the press. He went to the press and started addressing the press.
You are not a lawyer. As a lawyer, you know that what
does he have the powers?
He has.
He does not.
He has.
He does not. I'm saying that he does not have the powers. He does not have the powers to postpone any convention of the party. He does not.
Gentlemen,
and the deputy chairman of the party can also preside on the convention.
Okay, all right, gentlemen, just before we move on to say, look, what will be the solution? The PDP had also, in its party governance over the 16-year period it was in office, it came up with, the so-called consensus arrangement. Probably you can blame that on lack of internal party democracy, XYZ. But it was always the case, reported, on several occasions, that whenever you had your congresses, whether at the ward level, whether at the state level, local government at state level, there were quarrels and squabbles over delegates list and so on and so forth. So is this the beginning of the end for the PDP?
No. The answer is no.
Why?
We are going to rebrand PDP, reposition it to challenge the ruling All Progressive Congress. That is what the PDP is doing. And the only thing left for us is the leadership tussle that we have. I believe that in the next 2 months, the Supreme Court is going to make a pronouncement on the matter.
You don't talk as a lawyer as if the Supreme Court is your court.
I am not saying that.
You are a lawyer. Don't talk like that.
Either way, either for or against.
How are you sure that the Supreme Court will hear the matter within 2 months?
Why not?
How are you sure? I'm asking
It has happened before.
Look,
we were in the Supreme Court during the
Is there a time delimitation?
Of course, the Supreme Court can abridge the time within which to hear these cases. They can abridge the time. It has happened during the Ondo crisis. When we had the governorship tussle in Ondo State.
Mr. Yemba, do you think that the rule of law can decide this matter amicably? Can it put an end to this crisis?
No.
Yes, I agree.
No.
They will.
No.
I have earlier on
even
stated.
if you have victory in the court, you need the people to come together.
I agree with you.
As a politician, I know all these leadership tussle, all these legal battles will not solve PDP problem. What will solve PDP problem is for people to keep aside their personal ambition, their egos, and say, look, what do we need in PDP?
Is your side ready to do that?
We have always been ready. Even before the Court of Appeal judgment, let me tell Nigerians, General Gusau called both McCarthy and Sheriff. And we told Sheriff, whatever our leader says, accept it. In that meeting, Sheriff said, look, General, tell McCarthy he's here, I'm here. Let him step down, I step down. Let him produce 6 people, I produce 6 people for us to form acting national committee who will do this convention. If the 2 of us are the problems. That was a way to solve this problem. McCarthy said, oh, he has to go and consult before he comes back. Until today, he has not come back.
Is this the end? Is this the beginning of the end for the PDP?
No. I beg on the dramatist personnel to take the interests of the ordinary PDP supporter at heart and come out with a position that this PDP is bigger than all of us individually. Let us come together. Now that there is leadership, valid leadership in place, and the man said, if all of us agree, even within a month, let us do convention. What is wrong with that?
Everybody seems to be talking, let us come together.
Yes.
McAfee's side is saying, let us come together. Sheriff's side is saying, let us come together. But the words that both of you are speaking don't even, follow that direction. So how do you come together? Under what platform? We understand that the former president is, of course, meeting with the leadership of both sides.
Yes, he has come in very strongly to talk to the leadership. We agree within, even if during the pendency of the appeal at the Supreme Court, an agreement could be reached, we could come together. That does not mean that the pendency of that appeal is nugatory. We're not rendering whatever that will come out from the Supreme Court nugatory. What we are saying is that the parties must come together. This is a person that has distrust on all officials of the party and stakeholders.
Okay.
If the Governors Forum, former Ministers Forum, and all organs of the party are of the view that the National Caretaker Committee of the party is illegitimate, he has gone to court. For now, the court has given him judgment, but we have appealed. And the former president is talking. We really, really want to come together and see to the end of this leadership crisis, because it has given a serious setback to the People's Democratic Party. How do we come
together?
No, how do you? Yeah, you can take
how
that.
How do you come together?
Sorry, Alhaji Gola, take that.
There are many ways that we can
just
come
hold on
together.
a second, gentlemen. I'm sure you have also heard the opinion that the crisis in the PDP is being stoked from outside, it will clearly say by the APC, that the APC wants to destabilize the PDP. But from what you are saying, it appears obvious that the self-destruction is actually coming from within. What's your reaction to this?
People don't give reasons to justify their unwanted action. In the first place, how can you begin to blame APC? Look, politically and strategically, even if I were in the APC, I will be happy if there's crisis in PDP. Yes, because its strategy is politics. I'm not saying that APC are not happy. They are happy because we are not putting our acts together. Notwithstanding the fumbling that they are doing, they must be happy because they don't need PDP together. But the issue is, Governor Fayoshe and Governor Wike, who insisted that all the other governors must plead on Sheriff and prevail on Sharif to accept the leadership of this party, were they sent by ABC? The answer is no. So to begin to say, oh, APC is talking this crisis, I feel ashamed. Don't we have brains in PDP? We have people who have brains, who have their brains in their head.
So what is the way out?
The way out is the Court of Appeal has given judgment, recognizing Sharif as the chairman of the party. All parties before the judgment said, once this judgment comes, either for McCarthy or Sharif, we should come together under that leadership.
Let me react to...
Let me finish. We should come together under that leadership. If it is McCarthy, under his leadership, for him to do us national convention, for us to elect our national officers. If it is for Sharif, let us come together, queue behind him, let him preside over a national convention.
Thank you. Thank you. Briefly, last. We don't have... Yes.
Let me react to the APC inclusion into the PDP. You know, even if Governor Ayo Fayose, Governor Wike, had pleaded with Sharif to come and head the party, the APC has cashed on that mistake. I'll tell Nigerians that the only opposition party in Nigeria is the People's Democratic Party, which has put in place, it has become an institution in Nigeria. It is a major, yes, it's a major opposition party in Nigeria. I don't know. Is it ABGA? Is it Labour Party?
No,
is it PDM?
Mr. Yamba, you have to quickly make your point.
Is it PDM, or which of them is a major opposition party? No. Having known that the PDP is a major opposition party, they want to instigate crisis in it. If you look at the way and manner the APC governors, some of them welcome Sharif, some of them invite Sharif to come and set up parallel. I am aware. Hold on. Let me make the point. We are not talking about no, that is not what we are saying.
Sorry, gentlemen.
That is not what I am saying.
Gentlemen, we are pressed for time. We also have reactions from viewers on this subject matter. But I thought you listened to Alhaji Gulak when he asked the question whether PDP members, to state it that PDP members have brains in their heads.
Yes.
Yes, you listen to that. But let's take these tweets very quickly. Frank Smith, the Court of Appeal has made its judgment, and so be it. All PDP needs right now is to unite as one big family and move on.
All right, and Sani Michael Makoji, thus we can see greed on the part of those fueling this crisis all this while, else they would have settled out of court.
And then we have this from Adediro Adedotun. It says, PDP is soon to break because of political tussle and power-drunk politicians. If members believe others are superior and not selfish, things will be okay.
All right, and this is Dave Moyo, tweets, avoid the path of self-destruction.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, PDP is in deep crisis, and the attitude of its leaders to, quote, chair one side and boo the other side, unquote, will make it difficult for the party to unite.
And Ibrahim to the tweets, washing one's linen in the public is not a good thing, but the recent PDP drama indicates they are not ready to change.
All right, those are the tweets that we can take in the meantime, and that's the much that we can also have for this conversation. Of course, the matters are continuing out there in the public domain and amongst the ranks of members of the PDP, as well as watchers of the political space in Nigeria. I would like to thank our two guests, lawyer Mr. David Ihoemba. I'm sorry, that's David Ihoemba. It's a former Speaker of the Benue House of Assembly. I would like to thank you for being with us for the conversation today. We also would like to thank another lawyer and former special advisor to President Goodluck Jonathan on political affairs, Alhaji Ahmed Gulak from Adamawa State. Thank you for being with us.
I was also Speaker of Adamawa.
As always on the program, we always like our guests to shake hands. Good.
So when you, in our studios, that's fair enough. We hope the spirit lingers on so that there are no fisticuffs outside the studios or when McCarthy and Modu Sharif meet. That's it for that first conversation we're having. The next one for us will be taking a look at the federal government of Nigeria newly introduced savings bond.
Don't allow this thing to disgrace me.
It started with a race over nothing and something. Soon, the race became an issue. But what issue is an issue when the reason for the issue is not an issue?
the run now? Somebody tell me, why should I run?
Join us in 100 meters this week on Professor John Bull. Another refreshing episode of your rib-cracking comedy and social satire.
Hello there. Again.
Showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Are you people safe? Yeah.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
Okay, sir. You may now go in for your interview.
Thank you. Ah, my shoe. And to think I just bought this very expensive foreign shoe 2 months ago.
So sorry about your shoes. This is why I advise my friends to always patronize made in Nigeria products. See this shoe. It's made in Nigeria and I've had it for 2 years and it's still as good as the day I bought it.
Made in Nigeria products are good quality, and stringent government regulations and certification now mean the goods made in Nigeria meet international standards. Make the patriotic choice today. Buy right. Buy Made in Nigeria.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Right, welcome to the second part of our discussion on Good Morning Nigeria for today. And we have right here in the studio the Director General of the Debt Management Office, DMO, Dr. Abraham Nwankwo. Of course, DMO is the issuer of the Federal Government of Nigeria Savings Bond. So, Dr. Nwankwo, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. A pleasure. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin, for the benefit of our viewers, getting an understanding of what the savings bond is all about.
Thank you very much. As you know, the federal government from time to time issues bonds for the purpose of raising money to fund the deficit as appropriated by the National Assembly. Since 2002, we've been issuing federal government of Nigerian bonds. These bonds have been subscribed to mainly by corporates, big investors, fund managers, banks, pension funds, and the high net worth individuals. But we thought we have reached a stage where we need a change. And that change is making the ordinary Nigerian, all Nigerians of all income groups, to be able to participate in the bond market, which means just as people with very big money, very high income, invest in the federal government of Nigerian bonds in order to earn, a reasonable income, and in the process contribute to national development. We want every Nigerian, no matter the income level, to be able to do the same. So we decided now to issue a federal government of Nigeria savings bond, so that individuals, households, communities who have small amounts as low as 5,000 naira and up to a maximum of 50 million naira can invest their money, earn a reasonable interest rate, but more importantly, they'll be proud that, like every other person, they are contributing to the growth and development of the economy. Because it's from savings that you move to investment, and from investment, you achieve development through infrastructure development.
Right, Dr. Nwankwo, we've heard of all sorts of bonds, Eurobond, Green Bond, and all that. Now, beyond the interest of wanting people to invest, what is the need for government? What is motivating this bond? Is it tied to any specific infrastructural development?
Now, all government bonds raised are actually tied to capital projects in the budget. As you know, every year there is a national budget, and if you look at the national budget, there's a list of capital items: roads, railways, educational institutions, health institutions, power, and the like. So the money the government raises is meant to fund these critical infrastructure projects.
That's from this savings bond?
So from this savings bond, the proceeds will be used to develop roads, for power supply, to fund the railway, and all those other capital infrastructure, which will enable the country to generate more growth, more employment. And so, because the ultimate is what do you do to improve the living standards of the people over time. And the ultimate is that as many Nigerians as possible should be employed so that they can earn their own income. How do they get employed? They get employed more easily if the economy is growing, if the economy is expanding in an appropriate manner. And one of the major constraints to economic growth in Nigeria, to employment, is the fact that we don't have adequate infrastructure. I mean, that is a known fact in terms of railways, in terms of good roads, in terms of adequate power supply. So the whole point of government is to mobilize funds to make sure that in the medium to long term, we close this infrastructure deficit so that the private sector in particular will be enabled to engage in productive activities. Both local and foreign investors will be encouraged to invest in Nigeria in agriculture, in solid minerals, in manufacturing, to satisfy the Nigerian market as well as to export. In that process, you'll be employing more and more Nigerians. More and more Nigerians will be earning income directly, and will be more dignified that they're employed, they're earning income, and they will also think in terms of saving part of the income they earn for the purpose of future projects for themselves. And this is the type of money they can put in the FGN savings bond, so that after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they'll be in a position to have earned some interest, and their capital will have grown, and they can now use this to invest in their own small-scale industry.
I was wondering, bonds usually have tenor,
yes,
as well as interest rate. So what is the tenor, and then what is also the interest rate for the savings bond?
Thank you very much. Now, the tenor we are planning for the savings bond is 2 and 3 years. We are going to start with 2 years, and this will start March 13th, which is Upper Monday. On March 13th, we'll open the FGN savings bond for the first time for a 2-year period, which means anybody who has anything around 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira, up to a maximum of 50 million naira. Anybody who has more than 50 million should now go to invest in the normal bond, with the FGM bond, which is for big servers, big companies and all that. Therefore, we want this to be focused on all Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians. So this will start on March 13th. And when it is opened on March 13th, it will last for 5 days. So within 5 days, you'll be free to invest. It's not like you open one day and you close that day. From 13th to 17th, it will be open. And this will be repeated every month. Okay. Every month. And there'll be a specific announcement saying the date it will hold every month. And now, talking of interest, yes, on the first day of opening, for example, on March 13th, we will announce the interest rate so that there's a specific interest rate. So every Nigerian knows that, okay, if I invest, this is the interest rate I'll be earning. And this interest rate will be paid every quarter. Every quarter, you'll be credited with the interest rate. So if you want to use it, you can use it. If you want to leave it, you can leave it. But it's quarterly, crediting of your interest income.
Okay, I understand that. Of course, I'm not a good financial person, but I understand that savings bonds are usually low yielding, come with low yielding interest rates. So what's the security for those people, average Nigerians that will be invested?
I don't think, savings bonds are not necessarily low yielding instruments. It depends on the market, and it depends on the state of the economy. As you know now, overall in the economy, interest rates are generally high. So also, proportionately, those who are savings, who put their money in savings bond, will earn a relatively high interest rate, because overall, the interest rate structure in the economy for now is high. And in any economy, what you consider is relativity. What is the relationship between interest rate, inflation rate, monetary policy rate, and the lending rate and all that. So for now, generally, interest rates are high in the economy. So those who put their money in savings will earn relatively high interest rate. So let me put it this way. The interest rate will be competitive. They will find a reason why they will prefer the FGN savings bond to other outlets, taking also into account that when you invest in a sovereign instrument, in this case the FGN savings bond, there's safety of your investment. There's no risk of default that you will not get your money back. There's no risk of you not getting your interest rate. There's no risk that the person you have lent your money to has gone bankrupt or has folded up. because you are talking of the nation, you are talking of the sovereign, you are talking of the federal government of Nigeria.
Unless the issuing nation is wiped off the
yes, which we don't anticipate, which is very remote.
I was going to ask,
So,
what happens at maturity?
Good.
And the government says, look, we don't have, your principal to pay you. So what happens
that's the safety. No sovereign is going to be in that type of position. No sovereign, and certainly not Nigeria, will be in that position that when you are debt mature, they say they are not going to be able to pay you. No. There is 100% guarantee that at maturity.
Also affect it?
And let me also tell you, let the Nigerian people know that this bond is going to be listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So, which means it is traded. So, what it means that even if you invest for a tenure of 2 years, and after 6 months, you have an urgent need, an unexpected need to use your money, you go to, you ask your stockbroker to sell your instrument for you and get you back your principal.
Yeah, which leads to the next question. You say the bond will be opening on the 13th of this month.
Of March, yes.
Sorry, of this month, which is today is the 1st of March. Yeah. And you are targeting all Nigerians and all nooks and credits, obviously, because that's why it's savings. Yes. Now, how does a potential investor participate in this?
We have, for now, registered about 87 stockbrokers. Stockbrokers all over the country. So what an investor needs to do is to go to his stockbroker, any stockbroker of your choice, and collect the form and fill. You can also access the form at the website of the DMO, www.dmo.gov.ng. You can collect the form there, or you go to your store, collect the form, fill the form, fill your particulars, and make your money available to the stockbroker into an appropriate account. Now, what happens then is that your stockbroker on that day, when it is opened on 13th of March, your stockbroker, March, your stockbroker will be able to tell you that, look, the government has announced that they will be able to take, this bond at so interest rate. How much do you want to invest at this interest rate? And you go ahead and make available what amount you want to invest at that interest rate. And that is the rest of it is a question of documentation between the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the Central Security Clearing System, and the Central Bank of Nigeria.
I'm wondering, Dr. Wankwo, is this likely to take us back to the kind of democracy we saw about 10 years ago in the stock market, just before the collapse of the stock market in 2008? Can we manage the explosion in the number of potential investors?
Now, this is quite different. We are now talking of the federal government of Nigeria. We are not talking of a private stockbroker, a private who needs money for their business and who can mess up. We are talking of the federal government of Nigeria. And that's why I have emphasized here, the procedures are very strict. Remember, the money we are going to borrow is as appropriated by the National Assembly. All the money we are going to raise is part and parcel of meeting up whatever is appropriated in the budget. And that is completely under the purview of the National Assembly of the Nigerian people. Let me also emphasize that all the regulatory authorities are involved in this scheme. The Central Bank of Nigeria, the Securities and Exchange Commission, as I have already said, the Central Clearing Security System, as well as the Nigerian Stock Exchange, will be registering it. So this is not a private bond where you can say, oh, there'll be a bubble, there'll be a boss. We're talking of the sovereign. We're talking about the federal government of Nigeria. And the government wants the ordinary Nigeria to be part of what happens in the capital market. So this part of the change, instead of limiting this to only the so-called very big people with very big money, very big company. You now want every Nigerian, at whatever your income level, you participate proportionately. And that is the essence of democratization. That is the essence of inclusiveness. We are talking of inclusive growth. So certainly people earn reasonable income by investing their savings in the capital market. So we should also encourage the low-income people to be part of this participation so that they can also earn some reasonable income. They find an outlet that is safe, with reasonable income, with assured returns, with assured recoupment of their investment at the end of the period.
What is the threshold for the bond? How much is the government looking to raise?
Again, no. As I said, this will be opened every month. Now, for each month, we decide the amount we want to raise. However, that amount we want to raise will be predetermined by the total amount the Appropriation Act has empowered us to borrow on behalf of the Nigerian people. So within that basket, we'll be borrowing with FGM bonds. We'll also be borrowing with FGM savings bond. Again, as I said, since 2002, this whole market has been going on, but it has been only for people with very high income and institutional investors. Now, we want every Nigerian to have an opportunity. That's the essence of, remember the government is saying, look, we are going to grow over the next 2 to 3 years. That's the whole idea of the economic recovery and growth plan. We want to grow. But this time, we don't want it to be like the growth of the past, where the economy was growing, but Nigerians were getting poorer. Nigerians, we are not participating. We want this to be inclusive. So that's why from the debt management point of view, we are saying, how can we make what we are doing to be inclusive in the spirit of government's total strategy of making sure that every Nigerian has an opportunity to participate in the growth process and gains from it.
If this is successful, wouldn't that be a direct challenge to money market operators who are also conversing from the same investors to come and put money in the bank, you know, at so much interest?
Again, we have to recall that in every economy, a major objective to achieve for an economy is choice. You should have all the variety of opportunities and you optimize. You as an individual say, okay, this is what I prefer. I prefer so much of this and so much of this. So my combination is this mixture. So this is good for the money market. This is good for the capital market. This is good for the financial system. This is good for the Nigerian economy because an objective, a definite objective of an economy is to have choice for all the players.
All right, Dr. Nwankwo, if the bondholder or the lender decides to withdraw, his or her principal before maturity date, is there any liability?
No, you simply go to a stockbroker and based on the price, as I said, this will be traded on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So depending on the price, you'll be able to sell your instrument at the ruling price. Okay. So, and as you know, prices in the secondary market move up and down. They are not static. Unlike what we are paying is a fixed rate. As I said, we will announce what interest rate we are paying at the beginning of the auction on 13th. For this particular bond we're issuing in March.
Like a debenture.
Yes. Now, that interest for us is what we must pay. Whoever is holding that bond, every quarter we pay. So even if you sell your bond to the other person, another person, we still be paying that interest quarterly. However, the instrument itself, because it is a very good instrument, will be traded in the market. So which means before we do the next auction in April, there are people who say, look, I want to buy this bond. And I don't want to wait till April. Mm-hmm. And there's someone who say, look, this is my bond. I don't want to wait till it matures. I want to sell it today, tomorrow, because I have an urgent need to have money to pay school fees. So their needs we meet, and that's the secondary market. So this process generates its own interest rate, the demand and supply in the secondary market, and that's the yield. So when you want to discount, say your stockbroker, he will discount it at that rate, which may be higher or lower compared to the coupon.
I'm not asking you, Dr. Nwankwo, to reel out the names, but how does a potential investor get to identify the stockbrokers who have been tapped for this exercise?
These stockbrokers are stockbrokers cleared by the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and registered on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And starting from yesterday, we have started advertising them, list them in the newspapers. So like yesterday, we advertised a couple of newspapers. Today, we are advertising a couple of other newspapers. Tomorrow, we do the same. It's on our website. There are about 87 of them. So they are specific. So any Nigerian can visit our website to see the list. Any Nigerian can also see this list in the various newspapers where we are listing them.
Okay, for workers in the civil service who probably may wish to partake in this transaction, have you also considered engaging labor to effect maybe direct deductions from the monthly salaries?
No, that's not the route we would follow. this is an individual thing. We are making sure that including what we are doing now, NTA is helping us to do by letting Nigerians hear about this new product. And we're using other media, the social media, the newspapers, the radio, the television. We have been doing a jingle for more than 2 weeks now on this issue, telling Nigerians through network news, particularly NTA network news, telling Nigerians about this bond and the benefits. We've been telling about it. So we want every individual Nigerian to take his or her own decision that out of the income I earn this month, I'll be saving so much for the purpose of eventually building a house, for the purpose of eventually carrying out a marriage ceremony, for the purpose of a naming ceremony, for the purpose of an agricultural project, a small-scale industry. So every Nigerian should take that decision by themselves. But of course, we are letting organized labor, organized private sector to be aware of this so they can help us also to educate their members that this is an opportunity they should look at and take advantage of.
On the face of it, I mean, what you explained, DG of DMO, it appears enticing, you know, that the federal government is coming out with its own savings bond. And you also talked about the interest rate. You said the interest rate will be competitive. Now, there are analysts who argue that, look, if you take a look, if you examine the government's interest rates on TBs, that's to say treasury bills, you can see the knock-on effects, you know, the rate of interest around the economy, the cost of borrowing, and then the pass-on rates to the consumers. How will all of this now conduce, as it were, to a suitable economic environment where you have players and you don't have high prices driving away investors or consumers?
That's a very important issue. Facing the economy, and which all of us should appreciate, understand what it is, diagnose it well, and know the solution. Now, high interest rates in the economy, using a simple logic, derives from the cost of production in the economy. And this cost of production, the easiest way to summarize this in the rate of inflation. So in the Nigerian situation in particular, I can make an analysis. Now, we have high rate of inflation in Nigeria because of high cost of production, and the major reason for high cost of production is infrastructure inadequacy, power, roads, transportation, and all that. And because of this high cost of production, at the end of the day, whatever you produce, you sell it at a high price. As I have occasionally explained, if you produce 10 lorries of tomato potato in Zaria and you are taking it to Lagos or to Port Harcourt, chances are that three of the trucks will collapse on the way. And if 3 of the trucks collapse on the way, you reach the market with 7 trucks instead of 10 trucks. And then you are going to sell the 7 trucks of tomato or potato for the price of 10. But you have lost 3 on the way. So you see the unit cost is very high. Because of and that was because the road is bad, and so your trucks collapse and you lost trucks. So what it means that if we're able to improve infrastructure, the cost of production will be lower. The cost of final goods and services will be lower. So inflation is lower. If inflation is lower, the central bank's monetary policy rate will be lower. At least the monetary policy rate will be lower. All the other rates, the interest rates, lending rates, treasury bill rates, all of them will be lower. So that's why what government is doing is to break the vicious cycle. Let's gather savings, let's improve infrastructure, and this will now recycle back into lower inflation, lower interest rate, and all that. But meanwhile, since for now we have a high-cost economy, it is appropriate that all economic agents will have an opportunity. Since they are paying high, they are suffering from the high inflation rate, they should also earn a relatively competitive interest rate to mitigate the cost of inflation. So, but if you are dormant, you have some money, and you are keeping it, and you are not being able to earn from the same market, and yet you are subject to the high interest rate, but you are not taking advantage. You are subject to high inflation rate, but you are not taking advantage of the high interest rate. So you are losing from both ends. But you can at least mitigate it under this circumstance.
All right. Now, we have reactions from our viewers, and these are direct questions that we would like you to respond to. Festus Akeboya, one of our regulars, says, the federal government should be putting money in the hands of Nigerians and not borrowing from them via FG savings bond. We'll go through all of them and then you respond.
And
yes.
The next one is coming from TRI. And it tweets, what are the hidden charges involved, sir? DGDMO?
And then Law Alpha C, that's Prince Lawal, says the system is replete with inconsistencies and may not work out as been speculated. Effective taxation of foreign companies is okay.
And again, Festus Akimboyewa wants to know how Nigerians in the diaspora can participate in this FG savings bond. So, Dr. Wanko.
Yes, instead of putting money in the house of Nigerians, so you are borrowing from them.
Now, that contributor certainly is a great economist. I can assure you. Yeah, because he's looking at the two ends of it. And he's right. He's very right. But to the extent that, look, if you cannot save, if your income is so low that you must spend everything on your immediate needs, then you wouldn't need to invest. But certainly at every point in time, whether individuals or households or companies, you have people who call surplus units at every point in time, that they have more money for now than they need to spend now. And there are deficit units, those who have less money than they need to spend now. So it depends on where you are at every point in time. In general, no economic agent, individual, household, or company is permanently in surplus and deficit. So whenever you are in surplus, you have this opportunity to please invest it. And it's for your own benefit.
What are the hidden charges?
There are no hidden charges because you invest your money, you get your principal back. Every month you get a quarterly interest rate.
Less commission and fees by the brokers.
The broker will come in when you want them to perform a service for you in the secondary market, but not in the primary market. Okay. When we issue this bond, the brokers are not going to charge you anything. Okay. But when they do a service for you, when you want to sell before maturity or buy before maturity in the secondary market, you are contacting them directly.
Sorry, Dr. Wanko, clarify this again. Just say it again. Are you that brokers should not charge, are not expected to charge any fee?
They should not charge any fee
for the savings bond.
For the savings bond. At the primary market. As we issue it, they should not, and you want to invest, you should not pay any
so how do they get there?
They have been engaged by government. So government knows the appropriate fee according to the capital market rules.
The last one is whether Nigerians in the diaspora can participate.
A very great question. Now, Nigerians in diaspora can participate fully. Simply through any of the stockbrokers, they can invest. But let me also use this opportunity to say that the federal government of Nigeria, through the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Debt Management Office, are already preparing a specific diaspora bond for Nigerians in diaspora, where they will invest in foreign hard currency. However, this savings bond is a local currency savings bond. But Nigerians in diaspora are free to invest in it simply by, when they send their dollar, it will be converted into naira at the ruling official exchange rate and invest.
Will also be in naira.
Yes, I mean the repayment will be in naira. So the detail is for them to open an naira account in Nigeria. But we are also planning a diaspora bond, which will be issued before the end of April.
All right, Dr. Abraham Wanko, Director General of the Debt Management Office, DMO, and of course, issuers of the Federal Government of Nigeria Savings Bond. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. God bless you, and God bless our Nigerians.
All right, and that ends our second conversation on Good Morning Nigeria for today. We'll move on now to the complementary segments, beginning with sports.
World Football Governing Body, FIFA, has banned Amos Adamu for 2 years. And at the Dubai Tennis Championship, Andy Murray moves into the second round. Let's join our sports desk now for details of the stories and others.